Hey, Amnesia here. Wanted to make a quick video about GBG and the cost of goods for siege camps and what goes into that. So, first off, it is based on, you can look here and see this sector, what it costs. It is, you've got some gunpowder, you've got microgreen supplements, you've got soybean proteins. It's different over in this sector. Bionics data, crypto cash, fusion reactors. So what causes this random assortment of goods? Well, first off, it's not quite so random. On solely the ages of players at the start of GBG. So, essentially call it 1 minute before the start of GBG. The game is looking at what eras your players are in, and then randomly assigning goods costs to those camps buildings, and so presumably everything else. But it's important to note you are not going to have camps cost goods from an era that you do not have a player in at the start of GBG. So, in the most extreme example that I've ever seen, there's a guild that has only Iron Age players. Guess what? All of these siege camps that they have, they would only cost those 5 Iron Age goods. So in that sense, a guild can manage exactly what their goods are going to cost. And that Iron Age only guild, it's a very efficient way of managing costs for siege camps. Now, let's just go back and see how wild those things can actually be and how much it can actually vary. So I'm going to come over here and show you a spreadsheet that I put together on my guild. This guild had 78 players at the start of our GBG on September 2nd. And you can see the number of players in each age. We had a couple with 1 player. So we had 1 in Iron, 1 in Modern, 1 in Tomorrow at the start of, and then on the flip side, our big eras were Future 11, 14%, and then Venus 23%. So one would expect if things were probably over time and maybe across every building that you could possibly build, the cost of all the buildings probably would look close to this. But when it comes to the one you really want to use most, the siege camps, it can be all over the map. And so we call it kind of rolling the dice when it happens. So this is what actually happened. So we looked at sort of that expected, how much expected values of the players in the guild. And we might say, well, look, if 1.3% of the players were in Iron Age, that's probably what you'd expect to get. If 14% of the players were in Future, you might expect to get 14% of the camps cost in Futures. And what we actually found this last GBG, and we're going to kind of track it going forward, was that it was all over the map. And so in some of those small 1-player eras, we had Iron Age kind of right on the money. We had Modern over here, basically 0. We got a free pass on Modern goods for this. So great, like our Modern era, we don't need to add any goods to the treasury for that. But in Tomorrow, which was a small era, we had 2% of the camps were costing actually 3%, so 2% more were costing Tomorrow goods. So we've had actually look for Tomorrow in this one. But on the you've had things like our Future, we got a huge break on it. It was 6% less, almost half of what you would expect. So our Future guilds goods, we've gotten a great break this season. So just to show what we're talking about is that it can be all over the map, and that kind of gets at the issue of why do guilds sometimes ask their players to move up before a GBG. It's usually when you have a tricky era for goods, where maybe you have 1 player in an era, you don't have a lot of goods in that era. That player's maybe in a lower era where they can't really trade or produce a lot of goods. A guild might want that player to age up right before and join a bigger era, right? So we haven't really done that, but you might say, hey, look, can our Tomorrow players move up to Future? If our Modern era moved up to PME, that could solve a little bit of problems. So guilds will often that are really focusing on goods, will try to cluster their players in certain eras so they can focus on just having fewer needs for their treasuries. Again, so just wanted to kind of walk through all of what goes into that and that it can be really variable, and that's why guilds kind of manage the player eras, and also why they're in every different GBG looking for certain goods, because it's so random, but it is based on those player ages at the start of GBG. So thank you for listening. Talk to you soon.